Well, good afternoon. I've been deeply concerned by the reports of corruption and criminal activity impacting our tow truck industry. And I know that vast majority of our tow truck drivers, they're hardworking people. They put in 12-hour days, night shifts, and weekends. And I absolutely love these guys and gals. They're good people who work their backs off to put food on the table for their families. But there's a small group of bad apples out there causing trouble, lighting trucks on fire, smashing windows, and getting mixed up in organized crime. That ends now. I've been hearing it from our mayors, industry leaders, the police chiefs, and OPP. I know they're doing everything they can to bring the criminals to justice and keep our roads safe. I especially want to thank Chief Saunders and his team at Toronto Police Services for the recent crackdown and arrest of 11 of these bad guys. I also want to thank York Regional Police for their successful bust in May called Project Platinum, which seized 11 tow trucks and took over 40 illegal firearms and drugs off our streets. It's a good start, and we need to keep going. These turf wars are totally unacceptable. There's no place for that kind of activity in our cities, in our province, and along our highways. To all the bad actors out there, my message is very clear. The party's over. We're coming for you, and we'll catch you, and we will lock you up. And our government is going to do everything in our power to support our law enforcement heroes in bringing these criminals to justice. So today, I'm here to announce the creation of a new task force to strengthen provincial oversight of the towing industry. This provincial task force will work with our police, industry, and municipal partners. We will hold them accountable, we will increase enforcement, strengthen consumer protections, and improve industry standards. I'll turn it over to Minister Mulroney in a moment to provide more details, but I just want to say, this is about sticking up for all the law-abiding people who work in our tow truck industry. And it's about sticking up for everyone on our roads. We know the system is in need of reform, and we want to work together to find solutions. We're laying the groundwork now for building a better, stronger industry that puts customers first, provides quality service, and continues to keep our roads and highways safe. As we reopen the province, we need everyone to be playing on Team Ontario to ensure a strong recovery. Thank you, and God bless the people of Ontario. Now I'll pass it over to Minister Mulroney.
Thank you, Premier. Good afternoon, everyone. Bon après-midi à tous. I want to begin today by acknowledging the responsible tow truck operators in Ontario, who play a critical role in keeping our roads and our highways safe each and every day. Anyone who has ever had their vehicle break down on the side of a busy road knows how stressful it can be. You're placed in a very vulnerable situation, and you need a tow immediately. And like everyone who uses our roads and our highways, our government is deeply concerned with the continued incidents of violence and criminal activity in the towing industry. These incidents are completely unacceptable and pose a threat to the safety of operators and everyone who uses our highways. Enough is enough. The current model is inconsistent from one municipality to the next, and it's not working. And that's why, under the leadership of Premier Ford, our government is stepping in to improve provincial oversight and to shut down criminal activity in the towing industry. We have formed a task force that will develop a provincial oversight model that strengthens safety, protects consumers, and improves towing industry standards. This task force, which has already met twice, is led by the Ministries of Transportation and the Solicitor General, and it includes representatives from 4 other ministries and the Ontario Provincial Police. Nous avons formé une équipe de travail qui élaborera un modèle qui renforcera la sécurité, protégera les consommateurs et améliorera les normes de l'industrie du remorquage. Ce groupe de travail, qui s'est déjà réuni 2 fois, est dirigé par les ministères du Transport et du Solliciteur général. Il comprend aussi des représentants de 4 autres ministères et de la police provinciale de l'Ontario. Once the task force has developed proposals for discussion and comment, it will be consulting with industry, municipalities, and public safety experts. Safety is always our government's top priority. And the interests of drivers are another priority. And that's why the task force is also considering ways of cracking down on insurance fraud, ending the first on the scene policy, exploring opportunities for insurance savings, as well as clearing our highways faster to prevent hours-long lane reductions in traffic for minor crashes. However, the immediate focus of the task force will be making sure that the tow truck system is clear of criminality. And right now, with the incidents that we are seeing month after month, it's clear that we have work to do. As soon as we receive the task force recommendations, we will be moving forward quickly to act on solutions and make sure our roads and our highways are safe for drivers and for responsible, law-abiding tow truck operators. En ce moment, avec les incidents que nous voyons mois après mois, il est clair que nous avons du travail à faire. Dès que nous aurons reçu les recommandations du groupe de travail, nous nous empresserons de trouver des solutions et de veiller à ce que nos routes et nos autoroutes soient sécuritaires pour les conducteurs et pour les remorqueurs qui respectent la loi. And with that, I'll turn it over to Solicitor General Jones. Merci. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Mulroney. Good afternoon, everyone. Tow truck drivers are a vital part of keeping Ontario moving. The towing industry clears our highways after an accident, supports enforcement of parking laws along our crowded city streets, and responds when Ontarians call for help. But they are operating in an industry that lacks oversight, structure, and where too many criminals are making their own rules. A spike in violence within the industry, including instances of corruption, torching of tow trucks, and the firebombing of officers, is a threat to Ontarians and public safety, and it must end. This is a dangerous turf war, and it is being waged in many communities across Ontario. I would like to thank police services for working together to respond to this growing threat. They have been instrumental in bringing this issue to the government's attention. When Ontarians are stranded on the side of the road, they need to know their calls will be answered by tow truck operators who act safely, ethically, and within the law. Working with the Ontario Provincial Police, the task force will help us determine tougher standards for the industry and shut down criminal activity that puts Ontarians in danger on our roadsides. We are standing up for Ontarians, responsible tow truck owners and operators. You work hard to provide an important public service, and we will not let you be intimidated by criminals. Tow trucks are an essential piece of a moving economy, of our economy here in Ontario. This task force will ensure that the industry has stronger oversight so that crime does not pay. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to the phone line for questions. First question.
First question comes from Sean Jeffords from the Canadian Press.
Hi, Sean.
Good afternoon, Premier. A question for you today about COVID-19 cases in Windsor, Essex, and the spike in numbers we've seen today and yesterday when it comes to the agri-food sector. The case counts now in Windsor, Essex are at their highest since the start of the pandemic, and I wonder if now that the increased testing is going on in farms, if this shows that the extent of the problem is actually much larger than the province really knew about, and what it's going to do about it now that we're seeing all of these increased tests.
Well, I'll tell you, I first want to congratulate our testing team. I want to thank the farmers. I want to thank the workers in OMAFRA as well. We've all come together. I had a great conversation with both mayors of Kingsville and Leamington over the weekend. They're doing a great job. Want to work hand in hand with us. So I just want to give the shout out to the two mayors there. And we were on the health table today, and to put this into perspective, out of the, I believe it's 265 cases, 175 of them tested positive. We went on one farm with 450 workers, and again, 175 tested positive. We're working the Niagara region next. They're up to bat, and then we're going to finish off Leamington and Essex area as well. We have a great team out there. They're working. Everyone's working together, and we're going to make sure that we're doing everything in our power to resolve these cases as quickly as possible.
And Premier, by way of follow-up, the medical officer of health has also mentioned that there's a practice amongst a number of farms in the region where recruiters will bring workers from farm to farm, and that this could also be potentially spreading the virus across different farms. This same practice was going on in long-term care, where workers were working in multiple homes. Why did the province not learn from that problem in long-term care and ban this practice at local farms?
Well, first of all, we're reaching out to all the farmers. We're giving a list of these recruitment agencies. Some are, we found out, some are fly-by-nighters and just trying to make a quick buck, so we're going to put an end to that. And we have, I believe there's been 70 orders given to some of the farms. We've done, I think, 250 inspections there and abouts, and they know all the eyes are on them right now. But again, I want to thank the farmers. They're cooperating. Everyone's cooperating. In their best interest, it is to resolve these cases and support them. I got to give a shout out to the federal government as well, stepping up, jumping in there for their federal inspectors that can inspect the bunkhouses, but they're also paying for the hotels and motels that we're putting these folks up in. So everyone's working on all three levels, and we'll tackle this like we've tackled everything else. With the cooperation of the people of Ontario, we're going to tackle this as well.
Next question.
Next question comes from Lucas Meyer from News Talk 1010. Please go ahead.
Hi, Lucas.
Good afternoon, Premier. First question is actually about the tow truck legislation. I'm just wondering if you can expand a little bit on the timeline and how this is going to develop. Do you have any benchmarks, dates for when exactly you'd like, these recommendations, these new policies, licensing, et cetera? What's the timeline to roll all of this out?
Yeah, I'll pass this to either the Minister of Transportation or Solicitor General. I'm not too sure. Whichever one.
Thank you, Lucas. Well, the task force, as I indicated, has been struck and has already met 2 times. So they're going to continue to work and meet over the next few weeks with a view to provide recommendations to myself and to the Solicitor General towards the end of July. We want to take those recommendations and then conduct stakeholder consultations. So with industry, with municipalities, with law enforcement. So we're going to do that over the month of August, and then look at those recommendations following that process. And we hope to be able to bring in legislation or regulatory amendments if required this fall.
Follow-up.
Thank you. And Premier, for you, and this is a economy-related question. Lots of businesses, obviously, in Peel Region, Toronto, that have only been able to open up for a little bit after going into stage 2. It could take a while for them to get back to some sense of normalcy. I know you've halted or reversed evictions on the commercial side from May to August, but I just saw a note from a Waterloo-based business which has various franchises, and they just heard another 2 of their locations are going to be closing up. So I'm curious if the government is working on any other financial supports for small businesses that currently can't open and are at risk of going bankrupt before stage 3, whenever it arrives, or have you basically, in your mind, done everything that you can and it's just, hang in there until stage 3?
No, I don't like the last approach. They can't just hang in there. I talk to small businesses, large businesses on a daily basis, numerous businesses across the province. I heard the Prime Minister wants to extend the rent program for another 30 days. I'm in favor of that. So far, we've had almost 10,000 people take us up and the federal government up on that offer. I'd like to see more people take us up on that offer. But on a daily basis, it's very fluid. It changes, and where we see people need help, we're going to continue to help them on all aspects. Our main goal is number 1, health and of the people of Ontario. But right very close to that is the economy. We have to get the economy going. We have to cut the red tape and all the regs that go along with, for instance, no matter if we're building infrastructure, which we have to start moving forward on infrastructure. We're working well with the federal government for their infrastructure funds, but we can't take 4 to 6 years to build a building. No matter if it's a long-term care building or if it's a company that wants to employ 1,000 people, because if it's a company that wants to employ 1,000 people, they're going down south of the border. Down in Ohio, you can get a building permit in 6 months. That's what we're up against. So the old way of doing business on getting approvals, and I don't mean by any means do we skip approvals, but there's more efficient ways of doing approvals and to protect the certain areas without taking 4 to 6 years to get an approval. It's just totally unacceptable. I've talked to the federal government about this. I've talked to the municipalities about it. We're all in agreement. We have to start cutting the red tape and getting companies to move forward and other infrastructure projects to move forward and put people back to work.
Next question.
Next question comes from Molly Hayes from the Globe and Mail. Please go ahead.
Thank you.
Hi.
Premier, going to the towing task force, Minister Mulroney mentioned the inconsistency of the existing municipal licensing system. And I understand that, the specific plans are still sort of TBD, but can you clarify, is your government's intention at this point to implement a provincial licensing system for the towing industry?
I'll pass that over to the minister.
Thank you, Molly. Well, we are looking at all options. We want to strengthen provincial oversight of the towing industry. It's something that we have heard from stakeholders on this issue, and that includes provincial licensing. The task force will provide recommendations and will continue to consult with industry, but we are certainly going to be consulting on the issue of provincial licensing.
Okay, thank you. For you, what is the intention around the current sort of first on scene policy? Is it the government's intention to ultimately do away with that? Many stakeholders say that's sort of the basis for the, quote, chasing segment of the towing industry.
Well, I better pass that back to the minister.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Molly. Could you repeat the first part of your question?
Sure, sorry. I'm asking about the intention around the first to scene policy. I'm wondering if it's your government's intention to ultimately do away with that, as many stakeholders say it's sort of the basis for the chasing segment of the towing industry.
Well, absolutely. My understanding is this is an element that contributes to the violence and to reducing people's sense of safety as they're waiting for a tow, and so it's certainly something that we will be looking at as part of the task force's work.
Next question.
Next question comes from Mike Crawley from CBC News. Please go ahead.
Hi, Premier Ford. Got a question for you in light of the debate at Toronto City Hall right now about a proposed 10% funding cut to the Toronto Police Service. Wondering how the province would react to this. Would you consider anything such as stepping in to try to stop that kind of a thing from happening, given what you've said before about police funding? Would you look at perhaps some sort of cut to provincial transfers into the municipality? What would your reaction be? How would the province, the government respond to an actual 10% cut of Toronto Police Service funding?
Well, we'd never step in. That's up to each municipality to make that decision. I just feel that, yes, do we need more support on training? Absolutely, we need more support on training. Do we need more support when it comes to mental health issues, doing calls and getting people in there, which we have already on a lot of different jurisdictions that the Solicitor General can speak on. I know we have it up in Barrie and a few other areas, but we want to be there to support them. We don't believe in overruling any municipality. That's their jurisdiction, and we'll work with them. But I think it's absolutely critical we keep as many police on the streets making the calls, because when people call 911, they expect the police to be there, not to be waiting because they only have 3 cars all in downtown driving around one night. And by the way, that's not an exaggeration. Sometimes it's 3, 4 cars in the complete downtown. In my opinion, that's unacceptable. And 98% of the police are great police officers, and you can't paint a broad brush across any police services across Ontario with any organization. It's, you know, you might have a few bad apples, but we're going to get rid of the bad apples, and I'll pass the balance over to the Solicitor General here.
So as the Premier referenced, police services boards are autonomous and they have the ability and right to make their own decisions. Having said that, we also have minimum standards in the province of Ontario of what our communities expect for police intervention, and when 911 is called, police deserve and expect to have a police officer there to respond to their cries of help. So I'm interested in seeing how the City of Toronto Police Services Board ultimately makes their deliberations, but I can assure you that as a government, as a province, we fully support and intend to continue to support our police services. Thank you.
Follow-up.
Another question that actually touches on the City of Toronto specifically. There have been 50 suspected opioid-related overdose deaths in the last couple of months in Toronto, and previously the government's indicated that new efforts such as safe supply sites on harm reduction, that's not something that your government is interested in supporting an increase in that. Wondering if that could change if the death toll from opioid overdoses keeps rising.
Yeah, Mike, I'll pass that to the Minister of Health. Thank you.
Well, we have always been serious about the level of opiate use and overdoses and deaths from opioids. That hasn't changed. We continue to be very concerned about it. We have seen an increase, unfortunately, in the number of deaths, as has happened in British Columbia. I speak regularly with my counterparts, federal, provincial, territorial. There is an increase. That's something we're very concerned about. We started our mental health and addictions plan just before COVID hit Ontario, the roadmap to wellness, and we know that there's more work that we need to do, both in terms of the consumption and treatment services sites, but also making sure that we have the services available in hospitals, detox centers, and so on. So it is of concern. It is something that we are still working very hard on as we're dealing with the COVID situation as well.
Next question.
Next question comes from Natasha MacDonald from Radio Canada. Please go ahead.
Hi, Natasha.
Hi, Premier. My question is actually for Minister Mulroney.
Right.
Bonjour, Madame la Ministre.
Bonjour, Natacha.
Bonjour. Je veux vous poser une question sur la garde des dépanneuses. Donc, on sait que la violence, l'intimidation dans l'industrie, c'est pas nouveau. On en parle en Ontario depuis les années 90. Vous êtes au pouvoir depuis 2 ans. Plus tôt cette année, votre gouvernement écartait l'idée d'émettre des permis provinciaux. Là, vous dites que c'est à l'étude. Donc, je me demandais qu'est-ce qui a changé et pourquoi avoir attendu avant d'agir.
Écoutez, on suit cette situation depuis le début de notre mandat. Lorsque je suis devenue ministre des Transports, j'ai commencé à avoir une série de réunions avec des intervenants du secteur du remorquage et aussi des gens de la police aussi. Alors, on a vu, comme vous avez dit, une augmentation des incidents de violence et de l'activité criminelle. Et c'est pour ça que c'est essentiel, notre gouvernement croit que c'est essentiel de prendre de l'action. Et c'est pour ça qu'on a organisé ce groupe de travail qui va travailler sur des recommandations, qui va inclure, comme vous dites, le licenciement provincial et ensuite prendre ces recommandations et avoir des discussions avec les intervenants pour finalement prendre de l'action dans ce dossier important.
Follow-up? Natasha, do you have a follow-up?
Sorry, I was on mute. My follow-up is for the Minister Mulroney as well. à Montréal, où il y a eu des guerres de dépannage également, la Ville a désigné des secteurs d'exclusivité où il y a seulement une entreprise de remorquage qui est préautorisée pour répondre aux appels. Et le but, c'est justement d'éliminer ce concept-là des courses folles pour se rendre au lieu de l'accident. Donc, c'est quelque chose qui est aussi déjà en place au ministère des Transports au Québec. Donc, est-ce que c'est un modèle que vous voudriez voir en Ontario ou qui serait à l'étude?
Écoutez, le groupe de travail va faire des recommandations, mais on va certainement regarder ce qui se passe dans les autres provinces pour évaluer le succès de leur projet pour voir si c'est quelque chose qu'on devrait avoir ici en Ontario.
Okay, next question.
Next question comes from Rick Westhead from CTV. Please go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon, Premier.
Hi.
I'd like to know whether the Toronto Blue Jays, in your opinion, should be allowed to play home games in Toronto this summer, with the Jays themselves and presumably the teams that they're going to be playing traveling in and out of the city without being in quarantine for 14 days. Is that a good idea?
Well, I'll tell you, I've been in conversations with Mark Shapiro all weekend, going back and forth. He's just waiting for the letter of support from the federal government. I know all municipal, provincial, and federal health folks, they kind of gave their approval. I know there's a few tweaks here at the province that Dr. Williams wants to work out with them, but we have to wait for the approval from the federal government on the quarantine side of things. And if they can move forward, then practice will start. I believe they're going to be arriving July the 1st and kicking off the practice moving forward.
In England, players in the Premiership tested positive for COVID-19 through 5 rounds of testing, even though players were in a bubble. And in Germany, a coach with a pro soccer team there left quarantine, putting others at risk.
Rick, you're breaking up. Can you...
I can't. Yeah, you broke up a little bit, my friend. So I think where you were going with this question, there are people at risk. I can speak for the NHL, how they're going to be testing people every single day, repetitively. And I know they have rigorous program as well, the MLB, on testing as well, if that was your question. You broke up there, my friend.
Okay, this will be last question.
Last question comes from Rob Ferguson from the Toronto Star. Please go ahead.
Hi, Rob.
Hi, Premier. Just wanted to get back to the Windsor Essex situation. How much is this explosion in new cases going to delay the reopening down there, or are you confident that it's contained to this one farm?
I don't think it's contained to one farm, to be very frank, Rob. I think we'll find out as we continuously test down there. We have a whole team down there, from translators to Ontario Health testing to public health testing, the federal government inspecting, the provincial government inspecting, but it's just a full onslaught down there to nip this in the butt there. And we'll get through it. We just have to make sure that we continue the testing and helping the people down there. My heart breaks for the people of Kingsville and Leamington, for the farmers, the workers, and the people that live in those areas. Like, it's, this COVID's not fair to people. A lot of people, a lot of communities, and people are getting hurt for no fault of their own. And it's just not fair, this pandemic. But we're all pitching in. Everyone in Ontario is pitching in. That's how we've been able to get this far. And I just want to help the people down there. And the only way we can help them and save the crops and save the farmers' businesses by a full surge. And that's what we're doing. And then we're going to do the same in Niagara and other farming communities, not to hurt these people. We have to protect the people. But when you have 175 cases out of 450 on one farm, and by the way, that farmer called me. The guy's absolutely fantastic. He's cooperative. I feel sorry for him too. But we'll get through it. Just a message to all the people in Kingsville and Leamington. We're behind you. Ontario's behind you. Everyone's there to support you, and we're going to move forward as quickly as possible to get you into stage 2.
Okay, follow up.
Yeah, as a follow-up, does this outbreak, this surge, does it put into question that new policy you brought in last week about allowing asymptomatic workers to keep working? I know the local health officer today said that they're doing a lot of one-on-one follow-ups with these workers to see what's going on.
Yeah. So I'll pass this, Rob, over to the Minister of Health. Thank you.
There have been a lot of questions about asymptomatic workers going back to work. So in the situation that with the one farm that had a high number of positives, there's a team going in there today, including nurses and nurse practitioners and interpreters, to speak to the people who have been diagnosed, to understand if they are truly asymptomatic or if they do have signs and symptoms, but for whatever reason aren't speaking up about them. We only want the people who are well, who are feeling well, they're positive, but they're truly asymptomatic, to be going back to work. And that's why we really need to make sure that they have that medical examination and the opportunity to speak to a medical professional to truly understand their situation. If they are symptomatic and positive, then they need to be housed separately. They may need to be moved off the property, or they may even need to be in hospital, but we're going to make sure that they are thoroughly medically checked out.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.